Mount Rainier. A titan of the Cascade Range, this majestic mountain casts a long shadow over the Pacific Northwest. Its glacial valleys and alpine meadows hold secrets whispered on the wind. Native American lore speaks of a powerful spirit residing on the mountain. They called it Tahoma, a place of reverence and mystery. For centuries, Mount Rainier has drawn adventurers to its slopes. Climbers from around the world come to test their skills against its icy heights. Some seek glory, others seek solitude. All who venture onto its slopes feel the mountain's raw, untamed power. Wildflowers paint the meadows in vibrant hues. Crystal-clear streams rush down the mountainsides, their music echoing through the forests. And in the summer of 1950, a group of climbers would answer that call, their journey forever intertwined with the legend of Mount Rainier. The summer of 1950 dawned bright and clear in the Pacific Northwest. The city of Seattle, nestled in the shadow of Mount Rainier, buzzed with life. But for a group of friends, the city's allure held little sway. Their sights were set on higher ground. Mount Rainier, in all its summer glory, beckoned. They had planned this expedition for months, poring over maps and gear lists, their excitement growing with each passing day. They were experienced climbers, each with their own reasons for answering the mountain's call. Jack, the seasoned veteran with a thirst for adventure, Sarah, the team's leader, known for her cool head and meticulous planning, and David, the youngest, eager to prove himself on Rainier's slopes. Their bond was forged in the crucible of past climbs. They had shared ropes and laughter, faced down storms, and celebrated triumphs together. Each member brought a unique set of skills to the team. Jack, with his years of experience, was the group's anchor, a steady presence in the face of adversity. Sarah, a skilled navigator and strategist, kept them on course and focused on their goal. David, with his youthful energy and enthusiasm, provided a welcome spark of levity. Their preparations were meticulous. They studied maps, checked and rechecked their gear, and packed for every eventuality. They knew the mountain could be unpredictable. Finally, the day arrived, and they set off towards Mount Rainier. The road to Mount Rainier National Park wound its way through dense forests and past cascading waterfalls. The air grew cooler, crisper, as they climbed higher, leaving behind the hustle and bustle of the city. They arrived at Paradise Meadows, aptly named for its breathtaking beauty. Wildflowers carpeted the meadows in a riot of color, their sweet fragrance carried on the gentle breeze. The climbers shouldered their backpacks, the weight familiar and reassuring. Excitement thrummed through the group as they set off on the well-worn trail. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows through the towering trees. The only sounds were the crunch of their boots on the trail and the melodic calls of unseen birds. The mountain loomed large before them, its snow-capped peak piercing the blue sky. As they ascended, the terrain grew steeper, the air thinner. Trees gave way to scrub and rock, the landscape taking on a stark, almost lunar beauty. They moved with the ease of experience, their rhythm honed by countless climbs. Each step took them further from civilization, deeper into the mountain's embrace. The world seemed to shrink to the next handhold, the next step. They made camp as the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the mountainside. Huddled around their camp stove, they shared stories and laughter, their voices low in the stillness. Above them, the stars twinkled in the night sky, a million points of light against the velvet darkness. The following morning, they awoke to a world transformed. Snow had fallen during the night, blanketing the landscape in pristine white. The air was crisp and still, the silence almost deafening. Breaking camp, they moved with a newfound sense of purpose. The summit, their goal, seemed closer now, yet they knew the most challenging part of the climb lay ahead. They donned crampons, their ice axes ringing out against the frozen ground. Every step required focus, every movement deliberate. As they climbed, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Then, they found the footprints. The snow crunched beneath their boots, a rhythmic counterpoint to their steady breathing. Each step forward took them higher, closer to their goal, but a sense of unease began to settle over the group. Jack, ever vigilant, was the first to notice the anomaly. He stopped abruptly, his gaze fixed on the ground ahead. "Hold up!" he called out, his voice sharp in the stillness. "What's that?" The others gathered around him, their breath misting in the cold air, their gazes following his pointed finger. There, imprinted in the fresh snow, was a line of footprints unlike any they had ever seen. The tracks were enormous, easily twice the size of a man's foot and spaced far apart. A shiver ran down Sarah's spine despite the layers of clothing. David, ever the pragmatist, knelt for a closer look. He traced the outline of one print with his ice axe, his brow furrowed in thought. "Maybe a bear?" he suggested, though even he didn't sound convinced. "Bears don't walk upright," Jack countered, shaking his head. "These prints show a bipedal gait, a creature walking on two legs just like us." A heavy silence descended upon the group. The wind seemed to whisper through the mountain peaks, carrying with it the echoes of ancient legends, tales of a creature that roamed these very slopes, a being of immense size and strength, known to the Native American tribes as Sasquatch, but to the world at large as Bigfoot. Sarah, a woman of science and logic, tried to rationalize what they were seeing. "Up here," David scoffed, gesturing at their remote location. "Who'd go through the trouble, and how could they make prints this big?" The questions hung in the air unanswered. The climbers studied the tracks, their initial disbelief giving way to a growing sense of awe and perhaps a touch of primal fear. The prints continued in a straight line, heading deeper into the wilderness, their trajectory impossible for any human to have made in this treacherous terrain. A decision had to be made: turn back and report their findings, or follow the tracks and see where they led. Venturing further into the unknown, they chose the latter. The wind howled through the mountain passes, a mournful sound that seemed to echo the climbers' growing unease. As they followed the trail of impossible footprints, the legend of Bigfoot, once a campfire story, took on a chilling reality. For generations, the indigenous people of the Pacific Northwest had spoken of a creature that inhabited the region's dense forests and rugged mountains. They called it by many names: Sasquatch, Skookum, Omar, but the essence remained the same: a being of immense size and strength, covered in hair, walking upright like a man, yet possessing a power and wildness that defied human understanding. These tales were often woven into the fabric of their culture, passed down through generations. It was seen as a guardian of the wilderness, a protector of the natural world, to be avoided rather than confronted. The climbers, products of their time, had always dismissed these stories as folklore, the product of overactive imaginations and the human tendency to fill the void of the unknown with myth. Yet here they were, confronted with evidence that challenged their rational worldview. The footprints were undeniable, their size and stride beyond the realm of any known animal. They recalled the stories they had heard, stories of the creature's elusiveness, its ability to disappear into the wilderness without a trace. Could there be some truth to the legends? Could this creature, this Bigfoot, be something more than just a myth? As they continued their ascent, the air grew colder, the wind biting at any exposed skin. The trail of footprints led them ever higher, towards the cloud-shrouded peak of Mount Rainier, a place where myth and reality seemed to converge. Their journey had become more than just a climb. It was a quest for answers, a pursuit of the unknown. The legend of Bigfoot, once a distant whisper, now echoed loudly in their minds. The trail of footprints led them deeper into the wilderness, the terrain becoming increasingly treacherous. They moved with caution, their senses on high alert, every shadow, every rustle of wind in the trees, seeming to whisper of unseen eyes. The silence of the mountain, once peaceful, was now oppressive, broken only by the crunch of their boots on the snow and the pounding of their own hearts. They spoke little, their words lost in the vastness of their surroundings. Each man was lost in his own thoughts, wrestling with the implications of what they had stumbled upon. The footprints were too large, too perfectly formed to be anything but deliberate. The sun, a pale disk behind the gathering clouds, offered little warmth. They pressed onward, driven by a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. The trail of footprints led them higher, towards the cloud-shrouded peak of Mount Rainier, a place where myth and reality seemed to converge. The feeling of being watched intensified. Fleeting glimpses of movement at the edge of their vision, shadows flitting among the trees, kept them constantly on edge. They paused often, listening intently for any sound that might betray the creature's presence. But the only sounds were the wind howling through the mountain passes and the beating of their own hearts. They were venturing into the unknown, both literally and figuratively. As dusk approached, casting long shadows across the snowy slopes, they decided to make camp. They found a sheltered spot beneath a rocky overhang, hoping for some protection from the elements. The wind howled through the mountain passes, its mournful cry a constant reminder of the wilderness they had entered. They worked quickly, their movements honed by years of experience, setting up their tents and gathering firewood. A small fire crackled to life, casting a meager circle of warmth against the encroaching darkness. They ate their rations in silence, their minds still racing with the events of the day. The wind howled through the mountain passes, whipping the tent walls with icy gusts. Inside, huddled in their sleeping bags, the climbers struggled to find sleep. The events of the day played over and over in their minds, the impossible footprints, the feeling of being watched, the growing sense of unease. Sleep, when it finally came, was filled with unsettling dreams, visions of a massive, shadowy figure moving through the trees, its eyes glowing in the darkness. Every creak of the ice, every gust of wind that buffeted their tents sent a jolt of adrenaline through their systems. Once, during the long night, they were awakened by a sound that sent shivers down their spines. A low, guttural growl, primal and menacing, echoed from somewhere out in the darkness. They lay frozen in their sleeping bags, their hearts pounding in their chests, listening intently for any sign that the creature was approaching. The descent was a blur. Each step took them closer to civilization, yet the experience clung to them like the icy air they breathed. They had ascended Mount Rainier seeking adventure, a test of their skills against nature's grandeur. They descended forever, marked by an encounter that defied explanation. Upon their return, their story was met with skepticism and fascination. They presented photographs and sketches, their accounts consistent and compelling. The 1950 Mount Rainier sighting became a watershed moment in the annals of cryptozoology. It ignited a firestorm of debate, fueled countless expeditions, and cemented Bigfoot's place in popular culture. The climbers, thrust into the spotlight, found themselves at the center of a mystery that captivated the world. Their story resonated with a primal fear and fascination, tapping into humanity's enduring curiosity about the unknown. It gave voice to the whispers in the shadows, the legends passed down through generations, the unsettling possibility that we share our world with creatures yet to be classified by science. The 1950 sighting did not provide definitive proof of Bigfoot's existence, but it did something perhaps even more profound. It planted a seed of doubt, a glimmer of possibility in the minds of those who had always dismissed the legend as mere folklore. The legend of Bigfoot, like the mountain it calls home, is shrouded in mystery. It exists in the realm of fleeting glimpses, grainy photographs, and footprints in the snow. The 1950 Mount Rainier sighting remains a subject of debate. For some, the lack of concrete evidence is proof of its non-existence. Bigfoot, they argue, is a product of folklore or misidentification. Others see the lack of proof as a challenge to explore deeper. And perhaps that is the enduring allure of Bigfoot. It represents the wildness that still exists in our world, the possibility that there are creatures yet to be discovered. The 1950 Mount Rainier sighting, whether a genuine encounter or a product of human perception, left an undeniable mark. It reminded us that the world is full of wonders, and that sometimes the most incredible stories are the ones we tell ourselves. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the unknown, exploring the true and strange stories of Bigfoot and other mysteries. If you enjoyed this tale and want to hear more, please don't forget to like this story, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support allows me to continue sharing these unique stories with you. Stay tuned for more strange and fascinating tales from the world of the unexplained. Together, we'll continue to explore the mysteries that challenge our understanding of the world and fuel our imaginations. Mount Rainier. A titan of the Cascade Range, this majestic mountain casts a long shadow over the Pacific Northwest. Its glacial valleys and alpine meadows hold secrets whispered on the wind. Native American lore speaks of a powerful spirit residing on the mountain. They called it Tahoma, a place of reverence and mystery. For centuries, Mount Rainier has drawn adventurers to its slopes. Climbers from around the world come to test their skills against its icy heights. Some seek glory, others seek solitude. All who venture onto its slopes feel the mountain's raw, untamed power. Wildflowers paint the meadows in vibrant hues. Crystal-clear streams rush down the mountainsides, their music echoing through the forests. And in the summer of 1950, a group of climbers would answer that call, their journey forever intertwined with the legend of Mount Rainier. The summer of 1950 dawned bright and clear in the Pacific Northwest. The city of Seattle, nestled in the shadow of Mount Rainier, buzzed with life. But for a group of friends, the city's allure held little sway. Their sights were set on higher ground. Mount Rainier, in all its summer glory, beckoned. They had planned this expedition for months, poring over maps and gear lists, their excitement growing with each passing day. They were experienced climbers, each with their own reasons for answering the mountain's call. Jack, the seasoned veteran with a thirst for adventure. Sarah, the team's leader, known for her cool head and meticulous planning. And David, the youngest, eager to prove himself on Rainier's slopes. Their bond was forged in the crucible of past climbs. They had shared ropes and laughter, faced down storms, and celebrated triumphs together. Each member brought a unique set of skills to the team. Jack, with his years of experience, was the group's anchor, a steady presence in the face of adversity. Sarah, a skilled navigator and strategist, kept them on course and focused on their goal. David, with his youthful energy and enthusiasm, provided a welcome spark of levity. Their preparations were meticulous. They studied maps, checked and rechecked their gear, and packed for every eventuality. They knew the mountain could be unpredictable. Finally, the day arrived, and they set off towards Mount Rainier. The road to Mount Rainier National Park wound its way through dense forests and past cascading waterfalls. The air grew cooler, crisper, as they climbed higher, leaving behind the hustle and bustle of the city. They arrived at Paradise Meadows, aptly named for its breathtaking beauty. Wildflowers carpeted the meadows in a riot of color, their sweet fragrance carried on the gentle breeze. The climbers shouldered their backpacks, the weight familiar and reassuring. Excitement thrummed through the group as they set off on the well-worn trail. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows through the towering trees. The only sounds were the crunch of their boots on the trail and the melodic calls of unseen birds. The mountain loomed large before them, its snow-capped peak piercing the blue sky. As they ascended, the terrain grew steeper, the air thinner. Trees gave way to scrub and rock, the landscape taking on a stark, almost lunar beauty. They moved with the ease of experience, their rhythm honed by countless climbs. Each step took them further from civilization, deeper into the mountain's embrace. The world seemed to shrink to the next handhold, the next step. They made camp as the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the mountainside. Huddled around their camp stove, they shared stories and laughter, their voices low in the stillness. Above them, the stars twinkled in the night sky, a million points of light against the velvet darkness. The following morning, they awoke to a world transformed. Snow had fallen during the night, blanketing the landscape in pristine white. The air was crisp and still, the silence almost deafening. Breaking camp, they moved with a newfound sense of purpose. The summit, their goal, seemed closer now, yet they knew the most challenging part of the climb lay ahead. They donned crampons, their ice axes ringing out against the frozen ground. Every step required focus, every movement deliberate. As they climbed, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Then, they found the footprints. The snow crunched beneath their boots, a rhythmic counterpoint to their steady breathing. Each step forward took them higher, closer to their goal, but a sense of unease began to settle over the group. Jack, ever vigilant, was the first to notice the anomaly. He stopped abruptly, his gaze fixed on the ground ahead. "Hold up!" he called out, his voice sharp in the stillness. "What's that?" The others gathered around him, their breath misting in the cold air, their gazes following his pointed finger. There, imprinted in the fresh snow, was a line of footprints unlike any they had ever seen. The tracks were enormous, easily twice the size of a man's foot and spaced far apart. A shiver ran down Sarah's spine despite the layers of clothing. David, ever the pragmatist, knelt for a closer look. He traced the outline of one print with his ice axe, his brow furrowed in thought. "Maybe a bear?" he suggested, though even he didn't sound convinced. "Bears don't walk upright," Jack countered, shaking his head. "These prints show a bipedal gait, a creature walking on two legs just like us." A heavy silence descended upon the group. The wind seemed to whisper through the mountain peaks, carrying with it the echoes of ancient legends, tales of a creature that roamed these very slopes, a being of immense size and strength, known to the Native American tribes as Sasquatch, but to the world at large as Bigfoot. Sarah, a woman of science and logic, tried to rationalize what they were seeing. "Up here," David scoffed, gesturing at their remote location. "Who'd go through the trouble, and how could they make prints this big?" The questions hung in the air unanswered. The climbers studied the tracks, their initial disbelief giving way to a growing sense of awe and perhaps a touch of primal fear. The prints continued in a straight line, heading deeper into the wilderness, their trajectory impossible for any human to have made in this treacherous terrain. A decision had to be made: turn back and report their findings, or follow the tracks and see where they led. Venturing further into the unknown, they chose the latter. The wind howled through the mountain passes, a mournful sound that seemed to echo the climbers' growing unease. As they followed the trail of impossible footprints, the legend of Bigfoot, once a campfire story, took on a chilling reality. For generations, the indigenous people of the Pacific Northwest had spoken of a creature that inhabited the region's dense forests and rugged mountains. They called it by many names: Sasquatch, Skookum, Omar, but the essence remained the same: a being of immense size and strength, covered in hair, walking upright like a man, yet possessing a power and wildness that defied human understanding. These tales were often woven into the fabric of their culture, passed down through generations. It was seen as a guardian of the wilderness, a protector of the natural world, to be avoided rather than confronted. The climbers, products of their time, had always dismissed these stories as folklore, the product of overactive imaginations and the human tendency to fill the void of the unknown with myth. Yet here they were, confronted with evidence that challenged their rational worldview. The footprints were undeniable, their size and stride beyond the realm of any known animal. They recalled the stories they had heard, stories of the creature's elusiveness, its ability to disappear into the wilderness without a trace. Could there be some truth to the legends? Could this creature, this Bigfoot, be something more than just a myth? As they continued their ascent, the air grew colder, the wind biting at any exposed skin. The trail of footprints led them ever higher towards the cloud-shrouded peak of Mount Rainier, a place where myth and reality seemed to converge. Their journey had become more than just a climb. It was a quest for answers, a pursuit of the unknown. The legend of Bigfoot, once a distant legend, now echoed loudly in their minds. The trail of footprints led them deeper into the wilderness, the terrain becoming increasingly treacherous. They moved with caution, their senses on high alert, every shadow, every rustle of wind in the trees, seeming to whisper of unseen eyes. The silence of the mountain, once peaceful, was now oppressive, broken only by the crunch of their boots on the snow and the pounding of their own hearts. They spoke little, their words lost in the vastness of their surroundings. Each man was lost in his own thoughts, wrestling with the implications of what they had stumbled upon. The footprints were too large, too perfectly formed to be anything but deliberate. The sun, a pale disk behind the gathering clouds, offered little warmth. They pressed onward, driven by a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. The trail of footprints led them higher, towards the cloud-shrouded peak of Mount Rainier, a place where myth and reality seemed to converge. The feeling of being watched intensified. Fleeting glimpses of movement at the edge of their vision, shadows flitting among the trees, kept them constantly on edge. They paused often, listening intently for any sound that might betray the creature's presence. But the only sounds were the wind howling through the mountain passes and the beating of their own hearts. They were venturing into the unknown, both literally and figuratively. As dusk approached, casting long shadows across the snowy slopes, they decided to make camp. They found a sheltered spot beneath a rocky overhang, hoping for some protection from the elements. The wind howled through the mountain passes, its mournful cry a constant reminder of the wilderness they had entered. They worked quickly, their movements honed by years of experience, setting up their tents and gathering firewood. A small fire crackled to life, casting a meager circle of warmth against the encroaching darkness. They ate their rations in silence, their minds still racing with the events of the day. The wind howled through the mountain passes, whipping the tent walls with icy gusts. Inside, huddled in their sleeping bags, the climbers struggled to find sleep. The events of the day played over and over in their minds, the impossible footprints, the feeling of being watched, the growing sense of unease. Sleep, when it finally came, was filled with unsettling dreams, visions of a massive, shadowy figure moving through the trees, its eyes glowing in the darkness. Every creak of the ice, every gust of wind that buffeted their tents sent a jolt of adrenaline through their systems. Once, during the long night, they were awakened by a sound that sent fear gripping their nerves. A bone-chilling, beastly growl, primal and menacing, echoed from somewhere out in the darkness. They lay frozen in their sleeping bags, their hearts pounding in their chests, listening intently for any sign that the creature was approaching. The descent was a blur. Each step took them closer to civilization, yet the experience clung to them like the icy air they breathed. They had ascended Mount Rainier seeking adventure, a test of their skills against nature's grandeur. They descended forever, marked by an encounter that defied explanation. Upon their return, their story was met with skepticism and fascination. They presented photographs and sketches, their accounts consistent and compelling. The 1950 Mount Rainier sighting became a watershed moment in the annals of cryptozoology. It ignited a firestorm of debate, fueled countless expeditions, and cemented Bigfoot's place in popular culture. The climbers, thrust into the spotlight, found themselves at the center of a mystery that captivated the world. Their story resonated with a primal fear and fascination, tapping into humanity's enduring curiosity about the unknown. It gave voice to the whispers in the shadows, the legends passed down through generations, the unsettling possibility that we share our world with creatures yet to be classified by science. The 1950 sighting did not provide definitive proof of Bigfoot's existence, but it did something perhaps even more profound. It planted a seed of doubt, a glimmer of possibility in the minds of those who had always dismissed the legend as mere folklore. The legend of Bigfoot, like the mountain it calls home, is shrouded in mystery. It exists in the realm of fleeting glimpses, grainy photographs, and footprints in the snow. The 1950 Mount Rainier sighting remains a subject of debate. For some, the lack of concrete evidence is proof of its non-existence. Bigfoot, they argue, is a product of folklore or misidentification. Others see the lack of proof as a challenge to explore deeper. And perhaps that is the enduring allure of Bigfoot. It represents the wildness that still exists in our world, the possibility that there are creatures yet to be discovered. The 1950 Mount Rainier sighting, whether a genuine encounter or a product of human perception, left an undeniable mark. It reminded us that the world is full of wonders, and that sometimes the most incredible stories are the ones we tell ourselves. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the unknown, exploring the true and strange stories of Bigfoot and other mysteries. If you enjoyed this tale and want to hear more, please don't forget to like this story, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support allows me to continue sharing these unique stories with you. Stay tuned for more strange and fascinating tales from the world of the unexplained. Together, we'll continue to explore the mysteries that challenge our understanding of the world and fuel our imaginations.
Bigfoot, the legendary ape-like creature shrouded in mystery, has left its mark across the United States, from the dense forests of the Mountain State to the rugged wilderness of Utah. Over the years, numerous sightings and strange encounters have fueled the fascination with this elusive being, sparking investigations and expeditions in search of evidence. Fade out. In West Virginia, reports of eerie sounds and shadowy figures in the backwoods have drawn Bigfoot enthusiasts into the heart of Appalachia. Meanwhile, in Utah, tales of towering hairy creatures stalking the mountains have intrigued locals and researchers alike. Charleston Daily Mail, Charleston, West Virginia, February 18, 2008, by Chris Wise, Daily Mail staff. Is Bigfoot in the Mountain State? People who believe in Bigfoot will be trudging through the West Virginia woods in a couple of months, hoping for a close encounter with the legendary creature. Bigfoot researcher Stephen Willis found these tracks in rural Texas, just north of Dallas, during an expedition in January 2007. He said the footprints, which he believes are from a large Sasquatch and its smaller offspring, were quarter-inch deep impressions in the dirt, while he, at 270 pounds, left no tracks. The Mountain State has been chosen by the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, considered the nation's authority on the search for Sasquatch, as the site of an April expedition. Based on the number of recent reports by people who claim they've seen the hairy ape-like animal in person, Bigfoot experts and devoted believers think there's a good chance they'll find some evidence of its existence in the state. Among those who will be scouting backwoods hollers and mountain trails are a couple of folks with longtime West Virginia ties. Stephen Willis is a retired military officer who grew up in West Virginia and now runs a successful business across the state line in Virginia, manufacturing parts for industrial equipment and mining machines. Pam Lovins works in healthcare administration in Huntington. They're both well-respected in their fields, have many friends, and seem to be bright, logical people, but they acknowledge their hobby, searching for Bigfoot, can be difficult for some people to believe. There's not a lot of funding out there for Bigfoot research, so we do have to have our day jobs, says Lovins, who's in her 40s and lives in Canova. Willis, 56, and Lovins are official investigators for the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization. Founded in 1995 by California attorney Matthew Moneymaker, the group has dozens of volunteer investigators who, by day, are scientists, journalists, and business owners. In their spare time, they meet with people claiming to have had a Bigfoot encounter and determine the validity of those eyewitness reports. In the past couple of years, Willis and Lovins have investigated dozens of reported sightings in the Mountain State. In April, they'll join other Bigfoot researchers for the 4-day expedition through the West Virginia wilderness. They'll be looking for footprints and any physical evidence to prove their theory that Bigfoot abounds in places all across the country. And as always, they'll be holding their breath and hoping for a close encounter with the creature. It will be the second time in the past few years that such an expedition has taken place in the West Virginia woods. In 2006, the organization led a mission over 2 consecutive weekends in Pocahontas and Greenbrier counties. Willis, who's been on 14 such expeditions from California to Texas, will head up the search for the first time. "We choose areas with a history of sightings," he said, careful not to divulge the exact locations of the April trek. "We can't tell people exactly where we're going before we do this because we don't want people coming in with guns blazing," Willis said. "There are a lot of people who'd like to kill one." but we are just out to collect evidence, and if we have a sighting, that's great. Willis, 56, is a native of Webster County. He lived in West Virginia until a couple of years ago when he retired from the U.S. Army and opened his industrial business near Wytheville, Virginia. He's getting ready to sell that and plans to retire with his wife and travel full-time, mostly to volunteer with the Bigfoot group. He said there's no doubt in his mind that Sasquatch exists. Growing up, he was accustomed to his grandfathers talking about the weird noises and howls they heard in their rural community, and of running into things in the wild they could not explain. They would talk about unknown creatures in the woods that would make these holy whooping kinds of sounds, said Willis, a graduate of Cowan High School in Webster County. A lot of it was from the early 1900s when my grandfather was a little kid. They attributed some of the noises to mountain lions, but it always sounded to me like something else. He distinctly remembers when his interest in Bigfoot peaked. It was 1960, he was 9, and a report surfaced in a Clarksburg newspaper that a bread truck driver had a Sasquatch encounter. The man said a Bigfoot ran in front of his truck on a rural road on the Webster and Braxton County line. It scared him so bad he quit his job on the spot because he was too scared to drive the route, Willis said. But it's Willis's own experience that makes him a believer. Like a lot of people, I've heard a lot of stuff, he said. As a kid growing up, all the noises associated with Sasquatch I had heard, but you never know what they are. When I got involved with the research organization and started listening to the sounds, and we started talking about this, I had heard them all, and researchers said, well, that's because you had a Sasquatch living around you. The closest Willis said he's ever gotten to actually seeing one of the animals was during an expedition last year in California. He was using a thermal imaging system to monitor a patch of wilderness at night, and he says he clearly saw one of the creatures lit up in infrared. He also has photographs of footprints he found in Texas that he says are unmistakably the tracks of a large Sasquatch and its smaller offspring. Willis says his wife Catherine saw 2 adult male Bigfoots walking on a trail during the 2005 West Virginia expedition. She was on one side of the Greenbrier River and saw them walking up a bank on the opposite side, not far from Watauga State Park. Lovins, too, said her belief is grounded on evidence she has uncovered and the secondhand stories she's heard from people who've been up close and personal with Bigfoot. I've never seen them, but I've seen enough evidence of them, and I do believe I've heard them, she said. When you are out in the woods or on the side of a mountain and you hear this, there's no mistaking it. It's not a bear or an owl or a coyote unless they weigh 400 pounds. You know immediately when you hear it what it is and what it isn't. Lovins said she'd been interested in Sasquatch lore since she was a child. I think it was the old 70s shows, Lovins said. When they would show the old Patterson film, I just got interested. Bigfoot aficionados offer up that film, allegedly showing a Bigfoot walking in Bluff Creek, California in October 1967, as the best visible account of a Sasquatch. Others say it's one of the best hoaxes perpetrated in American history, but you don't need to travel to the Pacific Northwest to meet people who say they've got a Bigfoot living in their backyard. Reported sightings detailed on the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization website, www.bfro.net, include 13 Class A sightings in West Virginia in just the past 2 years. The organization designates sightings as Class A if a creature is clearly visible to a witness. Class B sightings have more potential for misidentification because they're based mostly on audible evidence, according to the website. August 12, 2007, just northeast of Linside in Monroe County, a 12-year-old girl reports seeing a Sasquatch as she was walking up her family's quarter-mile driveway to get the newspaper. It was a sweltering day, and she bent over to pull her hair up in a ponytail. When she looked up, she saw a large, humpbacked creature with short hair that was clumped together. It was not far from her in a patch of trees, but it ran off into the woods when she noticed it. Other family members reported hearing strange poundings in the woods around their home at the time and noticed that other wildlife suddenly became very scarce. July 29, 2006, near a surface mine outside of Ridgeview in Boone County. A biology crew had been commissioned to search an active mine site for evidence that rare Indiana bats were roosting there. Crew members who were working at night reported hearing strange whooping and howling sounds. On the third night of the operation, 3 crew members were inspecting a site at about 2:30 a.m. when they were startled by a noise. One member shone a flashlight at a nearby road, and the trio saw what they believe was a 7-foot-tall, 2-legged creature completely covered in short, coarse-looking black hair, except for its face, which was brown. The creature looked at the witnesses before scrambling up a nearby embankment. After finding several large footprints, the crew was sufficiently scared to break down their camp and leave the site. July 8, 2007, on US 33 between Harmon and Seneca Rocks in Pendleton County. A Virginia couple was taking the long way home after visiting friends in West Virginia. The male driver slammed on his brakes, as did the car behind them, and reported seeing what he had first described as a man wearing a tree costume. He said the creature was covered in gray-greenish hair and was about 6 feet tall. Investigators said this was the third similar sighting in this area of Pendleton County during the summer of 2007. August 10, 2006, on US 52 right outside of Canova in Wayne County. A woman and her grown son were driving to work at about 4:30 in the morning. Just 2 miles from their home, they rounded a corner and slowed down because they thought a man was crossing the road in front of them. The witnesses said they immediately identified the creature as a Bigfoot. They said it had black hair and walked upright, but hunched over and with what appeared to be a limp. Lovin spoke to this mother and son and investigated the incident, deeming it quite credible. The people who have seen these things, it really affects them profoundly, Lovin said. When they talk to you, they shake. For many of them, it's really upsetting. Some of them are embarrassed, and a lot of them think no one is going to believe them. Lovin said she has investigated at least 24 reported sightings in West Virginia in the past couple of years, most of the time meeting personally with witnesses and going to the scene of the alleged Bigfoot encounter. We have very specific criteria for investigating reports, she said. The main thing is to check the credibility of the witness and to see geographically if it's likely. Sometimes it is just a mistaken identification. That happens sometimes in rural areas. Often, though, the sightings don't happen in the midst of a secluded thicket or on a remote mountainside. A lot of them, it's really not out in the middle of nowhere, and that's why people run across them, Lovin said. The sightings will occur right along roadways. One will cross a road right in front of a car, and that's when it happens. Lovin said in most cases people will report a Bigfoot sighting while trying to talk themselves out of what they've seen. In essence, even the believers are skeptical, she said. One man in Jackson County just kept telling me, "I'm a religious person, I just don't believe in this stuff, but I'm telling you, I saw it." I try to explain that it shouldn't have any effect on their religion and these sorts of things, that it's not something that's out of this world, it's an animal, it's just a separate species, and there's no hocus pocus to it. What exactly is a Bigfoot? In various parts of the world, he is known as Yeti, Yeren, Quachi, Yowie, or the abominable snowman. Bigfoot, among those who believe in his existence, is most commonly thought of as a solitary, ape-like creature that stalks the most rural, wooded areas of the country. Many of those who research the legendary animal say they believe it is descended from Gigantopithecus, an early relative of the orangutan that lived millions of years ago in parts of Asia. Some say the creature, who might have been hunted by early humans, walked across the Bering Land Bridge to North America and has managed for thousands of years to maintain its incredibly secluded lifestyle. Officials with the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization estimate there are anywhere from 2,000 to 6,000 of the creatures living in the United States and Canada. They say there have been more than 3,500 credible sightings and documented footprints found. Witnesses who say they've had an encounter with Sasquatch commonly describe him, or her, as being anywhere from 6 to 10 feet tall, covered with long, coarse hair, and walking upright, though often hunched over and with a lopsided gait. Reported sightings of Bigfoot-like creatures around the world go back thousands of years. The first documented cases in the United States date from the mid-1800s, but the Bigfoot phenomenon really took hold here beginning in 1958, when a couple of workers claimed to have found giant 16-inch tracks on an old logging trail near Eureka, California. After one of them died years later, his family members revealed it had been a hoax. It was less than a decade later, in 1967, when Roger Patterson and Robert Gimlin, a couple of Bigfoot enthusiasts, set out to make a documentary about the creature. They maintain they stumbled upon one of the animals walking near the water at Bluff Creek, California. They produced 53 seconds of film footage that many people still consider the best visual proof that Bigfoot exists. While many skeptics cast it aside as a hoax, no physical evidence has been uncovered showing that Patterson, who has since died, or Gimlin faked the video. But skeptics also point to the lack of physical evidence that Sasquatch does exist. No body has ever been found. Those who do believe are quick to say that it's rare for the carcasses of other large beasts, such as bears, to be discovered in the wild. Bigfoot researchers cite as evidence the discoveries of large, unexplained footprints and stick structures, tall and complex pilings of tree branches and limbs that researchers believe are the work of Sasquatch. Bigfoot sightings in Utah. Today, Bigfoot is a part of our culture with references in movies and TV series such as Harry and the Hendersons, as well as numerous TV reports over the years. Known as Sasquatch, Bigfoot features in many Indian legends. In 1810, David Thompson, a surveyor and trader for the Northwest Company, discovered what may have been Bigfoot tracks near the Columbia River Gorge. Bigfoot is often thought to be a larger cousin of the abominable snowman or yeti, and similar ape-like creatures rumored to live in the eastern hemisphere. Over the years, evidence of Bigfoot has been reported in Canada, most western states, portions of the Midwest, and even in Florida. Sightings have also been reported as far south as Guatemala. There is also substantial evidence of Bigfoot sightings in Utah, some of it fairly recent. Here's a list of some of the reported Bigfoot sightings and evidence in the Beehive State. This information comes from the files of Ryan Layton, of Layton, who has interviewed many Utahns claiming to have spotted Bigfoot over the past 13 years, as well as from past media reports. 1960s, a possible Bigfoot sighting near Beaver. 1970s. Some residents of Clarkston, northwest of Logan, reported something making a midnight trip through their community, awakening and frightening residents. An Indian reported seeing a creature in the Dixie National Forest. 1973. Craig R. Johnson of Far West Weber County was elk hunting with friends in the Manti La Salle Mountains. After returning to camp, they reported that something very powerful had lifted the door off a 300-pound horse trailer and tossed it 10 feet away. An imprint in the dust on the door didn't indicate a bear or a human. 1977. The first major reported Utah sighting. Jay Barker and Larry Beeson of North Ogden were hiking one summer morning with 5 young men in the Kuberant Basin of the Uinta Mountains, and reported watching an 8 to 10 foot tall creature with a mantle of white hair from 600 to 800 yards away for 20 minutes until some loose rock alerted it to their presence on a ridge. An expedition into the area a few days later found no tracks, but the ground was very hard. 1979, Larry Darley of Clearfield was elk hunting with his wife in the fall near Monte Cristo, east of Ogden. They later reported hearing a loud noise and smelling an awful odor at twilight. Mrs. Darley said she spotted a hairy thing with fangs at a waterhole 50 yards away through her rifle scope. They watched it for several minutes before rushing to their truck after the animal seemed to look at them. Hikers near Flaming Gorge reported stumbling onto a waterhole with a huge pine bed and a dead deer hanging nearby. They heard unearthly screams and made a quick retreat to their boat. 1980s, by month. A man from La Pointe, Uinta County, flying a small airplane from Ogden to his home one winter, reported seeing a large, hairy man-like creature walking through the deep snow of the high Uintas. Lee Feeking of Hooper, Weber County, who works for Utah Wildlife Resources, was camping in the Elizabeth Mountain area of the Uintas. He reported that something stormed through his camp one night, scaring all the horses away. The next morning, his horse refused to go in a particular direction, and he met a group of hunters in another nearby camp who told him they were spooked by seeing what they described as a Bigfoot. A man on a dirt bike behind the Francis Peak radar tower said he was chased by some sort of creature. Indians on the Ouray Reservation near Roosevelt reported Bigfoot-like creatures in a particular canyon, but since they consider the area sacred, outside investigation has not been permitted. Ute Indians also have a legend that similar creatures sometimes congregate in the Island Lake area of the high Uintas. There are also periodic reports of large rocks being thrown in the middle of the night around Island Lake. A Vernal Church leader and his family reported seeing the outline of a large creature near their tent one summer night. They also saw a huge handprint pressed against their tent. February Bigfoot made big news in Utah with numerous sightings. Pauline Markham said she saw something like Bigfoot walking on a ridge behind her house. Ron J. Smith reported seeing a creature in the moonlight in a pasture next to his house. He also said he heard it make an inhuman scream. Walter G. Ray reported that a pan of burned stew set outside to cool was mysteriously licked clean. Possible Bigfoot tracks were reported in the South Weber area. Lee Padilla of Clearfield reported seeing a 10-foot-tall beast dart across Riverdale Road in front of his headlights at 3:30 a.m. A Uinta man reported seeing something he described as non-human out a window of his home in the foothills. South Weber resident Edna Arave said she was frightened by the unearthly screams of what may have been Bigfoot one February night. She also believed many South Weber residents saw or heard things they never reported for fear of ridicule or the publicity they might receive from the media. April, a 13-year-old Washington Terrace, Weber County, girl reported seeing a hairy creature standing with its back to her, only 10 feet away in a gully near the Weber River. She also said she smelled a terrible odor and rushed home. Her brother, cutting oak brush nearby, also saw something large and black about the same time. May and Ogden couple picking asparagus along the Weber River near 12th Street and I-15 reported seeing an 8-foot-tall black figure with glowing red eyes about 40 yards away. They ran to their car and later returned to the area with Ryan Layton and others, finding hundreds of tracks. Several footprints were also discovered in a residential area of North Ogden. August teenagers reported hearing an unearthly scream and smelling a terrible odor one night. Large footprints were later found in the area. 1981. The police chief of Garland, Box Elder County, reported seeing a creature run in front of his car. Several other residents also reported sightings, and tracks were found leading in a northwest direction. 1982. Several drivers along Beck Street in North Salt Lake reported seeing a hairy creature run across the road in the early morning darkness. 1983. A jogger in Farmington reported seeing a Bigfoot near the city cemetery early one morning. Ryan Layton of Layton and a friend were camping on September 1st in the Hoyt Peak area of the Uintas. Layton, who collects Bigfoot stories, had heard a tape recording of a Bigfoot scream that a Montana rancher had given to another Utahn. At 3 a.m., he said just for fun, he imitated, as best he could, one of the Bigfoot sounds, and almost instantly got a reply. It was the same as the Montana recording, and Layton described it as an almost ungodly, sinister, and weird scream that lasted 5 to 10 seconds. He said it had too much volume to be human, or made by any known animal. Several men in the Wheeler Canyon area, near the Snowbasin Road, reported seeing something large with red glowing eyes at about 3 a.m. one night. They left their camping gear and rushed off to Huntsville to report it, also stating they saw several other creatures in the vicinity. 1988. Ranchers near Garland reported seeing 2 Bigfoot-like creatures near their lambing pens after dark. Soon after, many tracks were found in the Garland area in deep snow and were followed for 2 miles. 1990s. In Orangeville, Emery County, man told Ryan Layton he's spotted Bigfoot 4 different times in the high Uintas, including once with his whole family. He also said his grandfather had told him he'd seen Bigfoot in the same area. As the sun set over the forests of West Virginia and Utah, the mystery of Bigfoot remained unsolved. Despite evidence and chilling encounters, the creature's existence is still debated. Some see it as myth, others as reality, but each new sighting adds to the intrigue. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell for more updates. Thank you for your support.
Bigfoot lives, at least that's what Ryan Layton, Utah's self-proclaimed premier expert on Sasquatch, firmly believes. For 13 years, Layton has pursued the elusive creature by interviewing Utahns who claim to have had close encounters and by gathering what he asserts is evidence of its existence.
As far as I know, in the state of Utah, I've taken this Bigfoot study further than anyone else. It's absolutely overwhelming, the things I've come to find out. It's controversial but fascinating.
Reports of an animal fitting the Bigfoot description have come from Utah and the Pacific Northwest. Layton, 39, a self-employed entrepreneur, doesn't claim to have solved the Bigfoot mystery. He hasn't personally seen the creature, but says he's found enough evidence over the years to be convinced that something beyond normal understanding is out there. He emphasizes that he's not on a monster hunt, but is searching for answers and possibly an unknown species of animal.
In all probability, they do exist. I can't prove it to anybody, but people have indeed seen Bigfoot in unmistakable conditions.
Layton has faced criticism for his belief in Bigfoot, as most people scoff at such reports. Scientists remain skeptical, demanding the capture or discovery of a Bigfoot skeleton. Critics argue that without fossils, bones, or remains, it's unlikely that such an animal exists.
You'd think you'd come across a dead one or a fossil.
However, he doesn't support the idea of shooting one to present a body as proof to science. Some Bigfoot studies have ventured into the metaphysical realm, with recent theories suggesting a connection to UFOs. Layton, however, doesn't see much connection between the two, though he doesn't rule out the possibility of Bigfoot being an introduced or experimental species given the lack of fossil evidence. When humans encounter Bigfoot, Leighton noted that 80% of sightings occur at night and most involve a reserved yet curious creature. Bigfoot may watch a campsite from a distance, but is rarely aggressive. Although a few people have reported their trucks or campers being rocked by Bigfoot, Leighton said this is rare. A foul odor often accompanies a Bigfoot encounter, possibly from protective glands. Other animals also react negatively to Bigfoot. Dogs and horses often show fear and apprehension in its presence.
I don't think it's Cain or a Cain-related offspring, Leighton said, though he does believe Bigfoot is a sojourner. However, he doesn't believe Patton met Bigfoot, as the Apostle's horse reportedly remained calm during the encounter.
Leighton referred to Dr. Grover S. Krantz's research, noting that Bigfoot likely doesn't share many human tendencies. Some theories suggest Bigfoot is a modern version of the ancient primate Gigantopithecus, which lived in China over 500,000 years ago and may have migrated to North America. However, Leighton pointed out that this idea doesn't explain the absence of skeletons. Leighton's interest in Bigfoot dates back to reading a story in True magazine in 1962 and making an amateur Bigfoot movie in the 9th grade. His interest was rekindled in 1980 when several Bigfoot sightings were reported in South Weber Davis County. He admitted to being obsessed with the creature back then. The local sightings were significant because previous ones were mostly in the Pacific Northwest, though Bigfoot has also been reported in places like San Diego, the Las Vegas area, and the Grand Canyon.
I made a promise to myself to get to the bottom of those sightings. I decided to be an investigator and remain skeptical.
After years of investigation, Leighton is now convinced of Bigfoot's existence.
It's turned into a really interesting hobby. You'd be shocked how many people in Utah have witnessed these things.
He has spoken to 30 to 40 Utahns who claim to have had close encounters with Bigfoot.
These things have been seen all over the state.
Leighton believes seeing Bigfoot is a matter of luck. You can't just go out looking for it like a big game animal and expect to see one. He has seen footprints and believes he heard a Bigfoot cry out in the Uintas during 1983. He mentioned that Bigfoot sightings in Utah didn't stop after the South Weber incident 13 years ago. He cited a legend among the UTEs about a place on the Ouray Indian Reservation near Roosevelt where Bigfoot-like creatures have been reported. However, Leighton has been unable to get permission to visit this sacred area. The UTEs also have a cedar burning ceremony involving Sasquatch, and some petroglyphs depicting disproportionately large feet might indicate that Indians have known about Bigfoot for centuries. Some Indian lore suggests they believe Bigfoot is a spirit. If a Bigfoot is ever found or caught, Leighton believes it might be in Utah's Winter Mountains. He recounted how Roger Patterson, who filmed what he claimed to be Bigfoot in 1967, approached a Roosevelt outfitter about searching for Bigfoot in the winters that summer. Leighton also noted that an author mentioned in a book on Bigfoot that the winters might be where the creature is finally caught. Leighton isn't sure why the winters are considered a potential Bigfoot refuge, but he believes the evidence suggests that one doesn't need to go to the Pacific Northwest to search for the creature. He said if Bigfoot is ever caught, the environmental ramifications would far exceed the restrictions prompted by the spotted owl in the Northwest and would significantly impact Utah's wilderness areas. Leighton mentioned that tracks were found in the Garland-Box Elder County area within the past 5 years, and there was a sighting around North Salt Lake's gravel pits on Beck Street about 10 years ago. He also noted more recent evidence in North Ogden over the past 2 years, though he declined to comment further. Media reactions and the potential for ridicule have prevented some people with Bigfoot evidence or experiences from coming forward publicly, Leighton said. The Mysteries of Bigfoot and Werewolves, a comparative tale. In the mist-shrouded forests of North America, where the trees stand tall and silent, the legends of mysterious creatures persist. These tales have been passed down through generations, whispered around campfires and shared in hushed tones by those who claim to have encountered the unknown. Two of the most enduring legends are those of Bigfoot and the werewolf, creatures that are feared, revered, and endlessly debated. Despite the countless reports and sightings, the evidence remains elusive. Are these creatures real, or are they simply the figments of overactive imaginations? To answer this question, we must delve into the stories of eyewitnesses and examine the physical evidence, or lack thereof, associated with these cryptids.
Eyewitness testimony has long been the cornerstone of many Bigfoot and werewolf sightings. However, as reliable as we would like to believe they are, eyewitness stories often fall short of providing the concrete evidence needed to prove the existence of these creatures. Imagine the stress of encountering a huge, hairy monster in the dead of night. Such an experience would leave anyone shaken, and memories of the event might be distorted by fear and adrenaline. But there are important differences between the studies of human witness lineups and encounters with strange creatures like Bigfoot and werewolves. In the studies cited by experts like Dorff, participants were tasked with the complex job of matching the facial features of a stranger to their memory of a quick glimpse. This is no easy feat, especially when the differences between the subjects are subtle. On the other hand, eyewitnesses of big, furry hominids like Bigfoot, or the half-human, half-wolf creatures known as werewolves, are usually focused on identifying what kind of creature they saw. They aren't trying to distinguish one man-wolf from another. They're trying to figure out if what they saw was a bear, a deer, or something far more unusual. Imagine two police lineups. In one, a witness is asked to choose between three Caucasian males of similar height and hair color, but with different facial features. In the second lineup, the witness is required to identify which creature they saw: a bear, a deer, or an upright, wolf-headed thing. It's likely that success rates would be much higher in the second lineup. Something as extraordinary as a werewolf or Bigfoot is much easier to remember after all. Witnesses often say that the image of the creature they saw was burned into their brains, making it unforgettable. Yet even in human trials, witnesses who are certain of what they saw are not necessarily more reliable than those who are unsure. This begs the question: if eyewitness memories can't always be trusted, what kind of physical proof, otherwise known as hard evidence, exists to support the existence of Bigfoot and werewolves?
The image of that creature is burned into my brain. I can't forget it.
The legend of the werewolf is as old as civilization itself, with roots in ancient Greek and Roman mythology. These shape-shifting creatures are said to transform from human to wolf under the light of a full moon, driven by a primal urge to hunt and kill. Unlike Bigfoot, who is often seen as a shy and reclusive creature, werewolves are portrayed as dangerous predators, monsters that terrorize the night. Eyewitness accounts of werewolves are filled with horror and dread. People claim to have seen men transform into wolves before their very eyes, or to have encountered wolves that walked on two legs like humans. These accounts, much like those of Bigfoot, are often dismissed as mere fantasy or the result of a vivid imagination. But what if there is some truth to these stories? Could there be a scientific explanation for the werewolf phenomenon? Some researchers suggest that werewolves might be linked to a rare medical condition known as hypertrichosis, which causes excessive hair growth all over the body. Others point to the possibility of a psychological disorder that leads people to believe they are transforming into animals. Despite these theories, there is still no concrete evidence to support the existence of werewolves. Much like Bigfoot, the werewolf remains a creature of legend, a mystery that is yet to be solved.
Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch, is often depicted as a shy and reclusive creature that lives deep in the forests of North America. Unlike the werewolf, Bigfoot is not seen as a threat to humans. In fact, many of those who claim to have encountered Bigfoot describe the creature as gentle, even curious. But despite the numerous sightings and reports, hard evidence of Bigfoot's existence remains elusive. Some believe that Bigfoot is an undiscovered species of primate, while others think it might be a relic of a prehistoric human species. Yet, without concrete evidence, these theories are difficult to prove. The footprints, blurry photos, and anecdotal accounts that make up the body of evidence for Bigfoot are not enough to convince the scientific community. Skeptics argue that these sightings are the result of misidentifications, hoaxes, or even hallucinations brought on by stress or fear.
Still, the legend of Bigfoot endures. For many, the possibility that such a creature could exist is too tantalizing to dismiss. The mystery of Bigfoot continues to captivate the imagination of those who venture into the wilderness, hoping for a glimpse of the elusive creature.
The stories of Bigfoot and werewolves are more than just tales of strange creatures. They are reflections of our own humanity. They speak to our fear of the unknown, our fascination with the wild, and our desire for connection with something greater than ourselves. Whether these creatures are real or not, the legends they inspire are powerful and enduring. In the end, it is not the existence of Bigfoot or werewolves that matters most, but the stories we tell about them. These stories shape our perceptions, influence our beliefs, and connect us to the mysteries of the world around us. And as long as there are those who are willing to believe, the legends of Bigfoot and werewolves will continue to thrive, casting their long shadows over the forests and hills of our imaginations. Reported by Eddie Glenn, CNHI News Service.
Tahlequah, Oklahoma. Is Bigfoot roaming around Pumpkin Hollow? That's the big question after a young resident from Tahlequah brought forward a photo, claiming it shows none other than Bigfoot, right in the middle of the frame. The picture was taken by his mother in the Pumpkin Hollow area several weeks ago. Now, after looking into it, I've got to say, while the figure in the photo isn't clearly Bigfoot, it's not clearly anything else either. It could be a scratch on the camera lens, a speck of dust, or maybe something else entirely. But let's not completely rule out the possibility that it just might be the legendary, hairy creature known as Bigfoot. If it turns out not to be Bigfoot, well, no harm done. But if it is, this wouldn't be the first time someone has claimed to spot one in this area. Back on August 1st, 1990, the Cherokee County Sheriff's Department received a report of a Bigfoot sighting on the east side of Eldon Hill. Former Sheriff's investigator Jack Goss recalled, "We kind of shook our heads when we got the call, but the lady sounded serious. She said Bigfoot was in her backyard. We thought it might have been a bear, but she was convinced it wasn't. She described it as hairy and really bad smelling." Goss wasn't the only one to hear such tales. Dan Garber, who was the Cherokee County Undersheriff at the time, mentioned that several residents had reported similar sightings, and a few calves and sheep had gone missing in the area. This sighting caused quite a stir, enough that it even got the attention of the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization. BFRO. According to their records, the Eldon incident is classified as a Class A sighting, which means the creature was seen clearly, and misidentification of other animals can be ruled out with confidence. Cherokee County Sheriff's Deputy Joe Weevil looked into the 1990 sighting and found footprints big enough to fit both of his feet inside. Then, just 2 days later, an 8-year-old girl and her mother reported seeing a similar creature digging through a trash pile near their house. Their dog tried to chase it but quickly returned, tail tucked between its legs. They described the creature as 8 feet tall, with dark brown frizzy hair and walking upright like a person, but resembling a bear. Bigfoot footprint was discovered. No other sightings were reported after 1990, until now. It's worth mentioning that if Bigfoot is indeed living in the woods of Cherokee County, it makes sense that someone who spends a lot of time out there might see it. Someone like Oklahoma game warden Brady May, for instance. May, however, has never seen Bigfoot, though he has spotted a few bears. He mentioned that back in 1990, bear sightings were pretty common in Cherokee County. Young male bears, pushed out by older, stronger males during mating season, often end up wandering into new areas. "It's not uncommon for us to get called out to deal with a nuisance bear," May said, "so it wouldn't be too surprising for someone to see one around here." But the 1990 Eldon Bigfoot sighting remains classified as a Class A event. According to the BFRO, there have been several reports near the area since the early 70s, and even possible sightings near Pegs, northwest of Tahlequah. Garber pointed out that one consistent feature of these sightings is that they happen in wooded areas where an animal could easily move around without being seen. "You don't hear about many Bigfoot sightings in Arizona or Enid, for that matter," he said. "I mean, how many Bigfoot sightings do you hear of in Enid?" So could Bigfoot really be roaming the woods of Cherokee County? It's a mystery that keeps folks wondering.
Story reported by Tom Mitchell, Castleton, New York. Lately, there's been quite a stir about what some believe to be a legendary ape-like creature making its presence known in Whitehall, New York, and Kinderhook, New York. This buzz has caught the attention of Dr. Warren Cook, a local anthropologist from Castleton State College. Over the past year, Dr. Cook has been delving into reports from California about a large creature known as Sasquatch. You might have heard it called by other names like Bigfoot, Yeti, Swamp Ape, or Bushman. On May 6th, Bruce Hallenbach Jr. from Kinderhook stumbled upon what he believes are fresh tracks left by this mysterious creature. Bruce, along with his family, has also been hearing eerie sounds that they suspect come from Bigfoot. Just last Friday night, they heard another series of these noises. Bruce's grandmother, Martha Hallenbach, chimed in, recalling how she heard a laughing cry that reminded her of a hyena on Saturday. She said she heard a similar piercing scream years ago on a night she claims to have seen a Bigfoot creature herself. Bruce mentioned finding 3 distinct sets of footprints under a bridge near a creek in a remote part of Kinderhook on May 6th. The prints varied in size, measuring from just under 14 inches to 6 inches. Dr. Cook has been keeping close tabs on the Bigfoot reports coming out of New York. He takes these sightings seriously, stating that such encounters shouldn't be laughed off. Cook is especially interested in hearing about any new sightings that might come up. He refers to areas with frequent reports of the creature as hotspots and believes it's possible that Bigfoot could be lurking in Vermont too. According to Cook, Bigfoot's strong sense of smell and familiarity with its territory make it particularly elusive, especially since it's a nocturnal creature. While some researchers think the best way to prove Bigfoot's existence is by shooting one to study its body, Cook disagrees. He doesn't believe these creatures pose any harm to humans and thinks they should be protected from extinction. Killing one just to prove it exists might push the species over the edge, especially if their breeding population is already small, Cook explained. At a recent presentation at Castleton State College, Cook showed a variety of color films and photographs of Bigfoot. The audience had its fair share of skeptics, but there were also some true believers in the crowd. One of those believers was Paul Bartholomew from Whitehall, a Bigfoot enthusiast who recalled numerous sightings in New York's Washington County during the 1970s. Paul even visited Bruce Hallenbach to see a casting of the footprint found on May 6th. Paul noted that screeching sounds thought to be made by Bigfoot were also heard on May 10th and 11th by people at the Skeeny Valley Country Club in Whitehall and the Whitehall School. Dr. Cook has been focused lately on the work of Ivan Marks, who has produced photographs and films purportedly showing Bigfoot. A segment of the color documentary In the Shadow of Bigfoot includes images taken by Marks in Shasta County, California. Although Marks has faced accusations of faking some of his Sasquatch footage, Cook remains interested in his work. Cook plans to give another presentation this fall and has been questioning Marks extensively about his research. Despite the controversy, Cook couldn't find conclusive proof that Marks's films were fraudulent. It seems that not everyone in the Bigfoot research community gets along, and Marks's work has certainly stirred up some criticism. Still, Cook believes that the Sasquatch might be the closest living relative to humans, likening Bigfoot to an ancient primate, Australopithecus, known from a skull found in South Africa.
In this chapter, we delve into more mysterious sightings of Bigfoot that have baffled experts and enthusiasts alike. The Pacific Northwest, with its vast and uncharted forests, has long been a hotspot for Bigfoot sightings. I was hiking in the Cascades in Washington State when I saw it, a large, hairy figure moving quickly between the trees. It wasn't a bear, it was something else. My family and I were camping near Mount Rainier. We heard strange, guttural noises at night. The next morning, we found large footprints around our campsite. Across the border, in the remote wilderness of Canada, similar stories have emerged. Tribal Indian communities have their own legends and names for the creature, often describing it as a guardian of the forest. Elders in these communities share tales passed down through generations. They speak of encounters that defy explanation, urging us to respect the mysteries of the natural world. Researchers and enthusiasts continue their quest for answers. Footprint casts, hair samples, and audio recordings are meticulously analyzed, but the puzzle remains unsolved. Researcher: this cast was taken from a remote area in British Columbia. It's much larger than a human foot and has distinct features that suggest an unknown primate. As night falls, the forest comes alive with sounds that stir the imagination. Could these be the calls of an undiscovered species? Or are they simply the echoes of our deepest fears and hopes? The legend of Bigfoot endures, captivating our minds and hearts. The search for Bigfoot continues, a journey into the heart of mystery and legend. Thanks for visiting. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Bigfoot's mysteries, please like, subscribe, and click the bell for more thrilling Bigfoot stories. Your support helps us keep the search alive.
In the secluded corners of North America, stories of mysterious creatures have persisted for decades, capturing imaginations and fueling legends. From California's misty parks to Oregon's rugged mountains and deep into Texas's dense woods, the figure of Bigfoot looms large in local stories. These dramatized accounts from the 1970s bring those eerie tales to life. In San Rafael, a musician's peaceful morning in Samuel P. Taylor State Park is interrupted by a startling encounter with something large and unknown. In Oregon's Mount Hood National Forest, a hunter finds himself tracking more than just typical game. And in East Texas, Bigfoot enthusiasts gather to discuss evidence and share their chilling experiences. These stories challenge our understanding of the world, blurring the line between myth and reality and inviting us to consider the possibility that something extraordinary may be out there.
San Rafael, California, One Independent Journal, September 29, 1975. Reporter's Notebook by Jeff Greer. Bigfoot spotted in Marin, local musician shares his encounter. The legendary creature known as Bigfoot might be expanding its territory, possibly staking a claim in Samuel P. Taylor State Park, which lies somewhat south of its usual stomping grounds. This theory comes from musician and composer Joseph M. Speck of San Rafael, who believes he had a close encounter with the elusive creature one September morning while seeking inspiration in the mountains. As I was strolling along a creek in the park, filming the scenic surroundings, I heard an unusual noise from across the creek. Turning my camera in that direction, I managed to capture a brief glimpse of a large creature as it quickly vanished into the dense brush. From what I saw, the creature appeared to be about the size of a horse, black and possibly covered in hair, although I couldn't make out any distinct limbs or a clear outline. The sighting occurred around 9 a.m., just as the morning fog was beginning to lift.
Intrigued by what he captured on film, Speck took the footage to Los Angeles at the request of Wolpert Productions, a film company interested in analyzing the material to determine if it could indeed be evidence of the legendary Bigfoot. For decades, there have been reports of fleeting Bigfoot sightings along the Klamath River, near Fort Bragg, and in the mountainous regions of Northern California, Oregon, and Washington. Occasionally, large footprints, 16 inches or more in length, have been discovered. Expeditions have long sought this mysterious creature, often described as 7 to 8 feet tall, dark, shaggy, and highly elusive. Indian tribes from the Pacific coast have their own stories about the creature, whom they refer to as Sasquatch. In other mountainous regions around the world, similar beings are known as the Yeti or abominable snowman.
I later crossed the creek to investigate where I had seen the creature but found no footprints or other evidence. It made a weird neighing kind of sound.
Portland, Oregon, Willamette Week, September 16, 1975. You can bet your hiking boots on Bigfoot. Perched at the base of an abandoned observation tower in the Mount Hood National Forest, a Portland hunter scanned the densely wooded valleys surrounding Squaw Mountain. Looking through the scope of his high-powered rifle, he slowly panned the terrain.
What are you hunting for? Game, the two-legged kind.
Momentary paranoia seized me. He's either about to try target shooting with me as a clay pigeon stand-in, or it's some damn idiot looking for Bigfoot.
Bigfoot sighting. There was a sighting up here a few days ago.
A log trucker spotted a Bigfoot, the hunter explained, near the summit of Squaw Mountain. That was Labor Day 1973, and it seemed absurd that grown people would run around the back alleys of the Cascades chasing make-believe creatures. My code of life, never ask stupid questions of gun-toting, beer-crazed Sasquatch groupies, prevented me from getting into an extended discussion. I was anxious to get away from this nitwit Nimrod, and any big feet if they were around. As far as I was concerned, however, there was no such thing as a Bigfoot, or an abominable snowman, Yeti, or a Loch Ness monster. No way. And then Peter Byrne wrote his book. Skepticism yielded to curiosity. The search for Bigfoot, man, myth, or monster carefully lays out the history of the Bigfoot phenomenon. Byrne's straightforward presentation of the evidence convinced me. It's time for an open mind on the subject. Byrne's book is being released this month by Acropolis Books Limited. Washington, D.C., and Oregonians are about to be deluged by a promotional campaign about Bigfoot. They had better be prepared for it too, because if the U.S. government's recently released survey touting Portland and Oregon as the best place to live doesn't do it, then Peter Byrne's book may bring him out to Oregon, Tracking the Elusive Biped. Byrne is the foremost authority on Bigfoot. He is director of the Bigfoot Information Center, BIC, in the Dalles, and has continuously tracked the elusive biped for almost 5 years. There have been dozens of sightings in Oregon. The Bigfoot habitat, described by Byrne, ranges from Prince Rupert, British Columbia south to Northern California. Most sightings pinpoint Bigfoot in the Coast and Cascade Ranges. There have been a few reports out of northern Idaho, but none in 10 years. There are no recorded sightings in eastern Oregon. At least 4 sightings of Bigfoot or his tracks have been noted in Oregon and Washington this year. In May, a minister from Central Oregon spotted a Bigfoot south of the Dalles. Like many others who encounter the unexplainable, he went home and said nothing for 2 weeks. By then, it was too late for Byrne to pick up the trail. Byrne and his assistants put about 100,000 miles a year on 3 international scouts and talk with hundreds of people. A network of 500 BIC associates feeds the center bits of historical research and reports of sightings. At BIC, a lone white mobile home sited at the edge of town, a volunteer staff produces a monthly newsletter, Circulation 1000, and handles routine investigations. BIC is partially funded by the Academy of Applied Science, a group whose biggest project is attempting to film Scotland's Loch Ness Monster. The center and the related field investigations run up about $2,000 in operating costs per month. In 4.5 years, Byrne says, the center has investigated 89 credible accounts of Bigfoot encounters, going back 25 years. These are either footprints of unknown origin or accounts from woodsmen who claim to have caught a fleeting glimpse of an upright ape-like creature. There is an incredible consistency in these reports. Respected citizens unfamiliar with the Bigfoot phenomenon before their encounter all give a common description of the creature. The humanoid figure stands from 6.5 to 9 feet in height, weighs from 300 to 800 pounds, and is covered with longish hair, brown and black in most cases, reddish in others. Its footprint has been measured at 18 inches, some reports up to 24 inches, with an enormous 56-inch stride.
Do big hairy primates occupy East Texas, other than humans we mean? By Michelle Martinez, published October 3rd, 1975. I don't believe in Bigfoot. I thought I'd let you know that I absolutely do not believe in Bigfoot.
Chester Moore Jr. begins, addressing a room full of eager listeners. The audience shifts uncomfortably, feeling as if they've been led into a trap.
How many of you believe in Bigfoot?
Almost everyone reluctantly raises a hand, then Moore delivers the punchline.
I think that believing is for religion, and I've accepted the fact that we have a hidden species of primate in North America.
The tension breaks, and relieved sighs ripple through the crowd of believers. Moore, a wildlife journalist with work published in Texas Parks and Wildlife, Texas Fish and Game, Tide, and the Port Arthur News, was one of several speakers advocating for the existence of Bigfoot at the 2nd Annual Texas Bigfoot Conference. Held earlier this month in Jefferson, near Longview, the conference was organized by the Texas Bigfoot Research Center, TBRC, a Dallas-based volunteer group dedicated to investigating Bigfoot activity in the state and documenting the behavior of these cryptids, or hidden animals. Cryptozoologists, the label many Bigfoot researchers adopt, study creatures believed to be extinct or unknown to science. The legitimacy of their work has been bolstered by the discovery of animals like the coelacanth, the okapi, and the mountain gorilla, species that were once known only through local legends and eyewitness accounts until they were officially classified in the 20th century. Bigfoot enthusiasts are quick to remind skeptics that the creature is not paranormal, but simply another undiscovered animal. We're not dealing with a monster, the missing link, a shapeshifter from another dimension, or an extraterrestrial being. I believe it's a flesh and blood animal, a primate of some sort that has, for the most part, managed to elude humans. Although the conference attracted over 200 attendees, Bigfoot believers remain a minority among the general public. However, Moore suggests that more people might be swayed if they understood the scientific basis and precedent for the existence of Bigfoot.
When I say I believe in Bigfoot, people look at me like I said I believe in some false god. Most people's impression of Bigfoot comes from tabloid headlines like, "Bigfoot stole my grandmother."
While Bigfoot sightings are relatively common in the Pacific Northwest, the idea of Bigfoot in Texas is surprising to many. But Woolheater points out that cryptids in Texas shouldn't be unexpected. His research into Texas folklore unearthed stories of a Bigfoot-like creature known as the Wild Woman of the Navidad, dating as far back as 1837. Texas's mild winters, diverse agriculture, abundant prey, and natural shelter could easily support a Bigfoot population. The creature's size, intelligence, and speed would place it at the top of the food chain, with no natural predators in East Texas forests and bottomlands. Luke Gross and Woolheater, who connected online through their shared interest in cryptozoology, founded the TBRC in 1999. In the past 3.5 years, the center's volunteer staff has grown from 2 researchers to 30, with an additional 8 to 10 associate members. All research is self-funded through membership dues. It would be nice if we could find a wealthy benefactor to support us. There's not much funding available for this kind of work. The cost of their high-tech equipment, Generation 3 night vision cameras, motion-activated infrared cameras, parabolic dish listening devices, thermal imaging units, GPS-integrated walkie-talkies, runs into the thousands of dollars. Despite attempts to secure funding from well-known Texans like Mark Cuban and Don Henley, the center has yet to find a modern-day Tom Slick, the Texas millionaire who financed cryptozoology expeditions in the 1950s. The TBRC has received over 100 eyewitness reports through its website, www.texasbigfoot.com, with 40 of those reports coming in after a news special about the group aired on NBC 56 Tyler Longview in July and August. While some of the sightings were recent, many were older claims from people who had kept quiet about their experiences for decades. We find that people are often traumatized by these events. It's almost therapeutic for them to finally talk about it, because they felt like they had no one to confide in. But in small towns in East Texas, it's just fairly accepted that these things are out there. Woolheater himself claims to have seen a Bigfoot in 1994. On a moonless night, as he and his wife drove home to Dallas from New Orleans, his headlights caught a tall, hairy figure walking along the side of the road. It was grayish in the light, and it was moving in the same direction we were, so we just saw the back of it, but it was definitely moving. We both looked at each other at the same time and said, "Did you just see what I just saw?" He wanted to turn back, but his wife, then his girlfriend, refused. He hasn't seen another Bigfoot since that night. When an eyewitness files a report with the TBRC, investigators follow up by phone and, if possible, visit the site of the incident. If the sighting is recent, they search for signs of Bigfoot, tree breaks or twists, hair, blood, and, of course, tracks. We've found a lot of areas with tree twists. To actually twist a tree against the grain requires more than just a large animal leaning against it. It takes torque, which almost requires a thumb. Investigators also assess whether the sighting area could realistically support a Bigfoot population, offering adequate food, water, and shelter. Despite the growing body of evidence, public skepticism remains.
You should be skeptical when there isn't better evidence in cases where there should be. We don't consider this paranormal because it's within the realm of possibility. If there's a large ape-like creature out there that has managed to elude discovery all this time, more power to it, but it would be pretty difficult to do.
Bigfoot trackers explain anomalies like inconsistent track shapes and varying toe numbers with genetics.
We're in the South, we've got things hanging out in the woods, it's probably inbreeding.
A small genetic pool might also explain the aggressive behavior reported in southern Bigfoot sightings, which is not observed in the Northwest. And since no carcasses or skeletons have been found, researchers speculate that Bigfoot might bury or cannibalize their dead, or perhaps, like some animals, conceal themselves when dying. Either people are outright lying, hallucinating, being hoaxed by someone else, misidentifying a known animal, or they saw what they say they saw. I believe that at least some of them fall into that last category. And if even one of them really saw what they claim, then there's something out there. Views of the investigators in the article is written. Thank you for tuning in to this channel. Remember, this channel is all about having fun and sharing both old and new stories about Bigfoot. We're not here to prove whether Bigfoot exists. That's a job for other channels. What I aim to do is share the fascinating stories people have told over the years, especially those from old articles when sharing such experiences required a lot of courage. Back then, people risked being called crazy or liars just for speaking up. It's amazing how many people have shared their stories on platforms like BFRO and other organizations. I truly believe that most of these accounts are genuine experiences. I appreciate all your comments, including the negative ones, as they help me improve my videos, whether it's adjusting the number of narrators or lowering the music volume. I created this channel because it's a great hobby for me, whether I get monetized or not. I love sharing Bigfoot stories, and although I've had my own experience that I haven't shared because of what people might think, especially when it happened, I want this channel to be a space where stories can be shared without fear of judgment. Thank you so much to all my viewers. If you enjoy the content, please consider subscribing. Your support means the world to me. Virginia Swanson's Quest, Spirit Punk Sutani, PA reporter Ramona, CA, reported on December 25, 1979, by P. Gatilla. In the picturesque hills of Winola, among the rock outcroppings of the Borrego Desert and the remote backcountry, evidence of a mysterious creature, Bigfoot, has been reported for years. While many consider Bigfoot a legend, Virginia Louise Swanson and other residents who've encountered the massive hairy beast believe it is very real. Virginia, a spry 79-year-old resident of Julian, has dedicated more than 4 years to researching Bigfoot and documenting sightings in the area. Her fascination began in 1953 during a mining expedition in Big Sur. One night, while camping in the rugged hills, Virginia awoke to a foul smell that she described as being like a slaughterhouse on a hot day. Then she heard heavy footsteps and strange grunting noises. When something lifted her cot into the air, she grabbed a saw and swung wildly, scaring the creature away. For years, Virginia attributed the experience to wild pigs, but after hearing others' encounters with Bigfoot, she became convinced it was the elusive creature itself. In her book, Night Side of Gold, she details her mining experiences and theories on Bigfoot, which she continues to investigate. Virginia believes that Bigfoot exists in a parallel world, appearing under specific conditions, much like lightning or rainbows. This theory is shared by Dr. J. Allen Hynek, a noted expert on phenomena like Bigfoot and UFOs. Local residents have also reported sightings and strange occurrences. In Dead Man's Hole in 1888, a 400-pound half-human, half-beast was reportedly killed by hunters. More recently, a prospector in the Anza Borrego Desert had rocks thrown at him by a hairy creature, and a group of hikers found large footprints leading into a cluster of oak trees in the Cuyamacas. While many prefer to remain anonymous, some, like John Lutman of Alpine, openly share their experiences. He found massive footprints in the Anza Borrego Desert that were about 19 inches long and 5 inches wide. He recalled, "I'm 6'4" and weigh about 250 pounds, and when I jumped off the rock, I only sank about half an inch. Whatever it was awfully heavy." Virginia continues to explore Bigfoot's presence in the Julian area and remains committed to sharing her findings with a broader audience. "I'm not a scientist," she says, "but scoffing has never stopped me from exploring the unknown." She remains determined to uncover the truth about Bigfoot. Strange tracks on Mount St. Helens. Evidence of Bigfoot? Unknown source, date not provided. Bill Nagel and his brother-in-law Russell Harvey were elk hunting near the Toutle River on Mount St. Helens when they stumbled upon something unexpected: strange tracks in the snow. The tracks, which were found at around 1 p.m. on a Saturday, had no shoes, only 2 toes, and a stride of 6 feet. The footprint measured about 12 inches long and 7 inches wide. Nagel, initially a skeptic, said, "I've always laughed about it and made jokes about it, but this kind of made me think. It convinced me there has got to be something walking around up there." Though many are quick to dismiss these sightings as hoaxes or mistakes, Nagel is now convinced that the mysterious tracks he saw were real evidence of the legendary creature known as Bigfoot.
So you don't believe in Bigfoot? Try telling that to John and Rusty Esposito. John and Rusty Esposito, from Wheaton, Illinois, were back in the Dalles on Friday with members of the Bigfoot Research Project from Parkdale. They returned to the spot where they believe they encountered the legendary creature last year. John recounted how he and his wife were visiting friends in the area in January of the previous year. They were on their way back to Chicago by train when, just outside the Dalles at around 3:15 p.m. on January 12th, the train came to an unexpected stop. Looking out the window, John noticed a rabbit darting across the snowy landscape. "Look, a rabbit," John nudged his wife Rusty, pointing out the window. As the rabbit disappeared over a bluff, the couple's attention was drawn to a large hulking figure crouched near a tree. Rusty was quick to clarify. This wasn't a bear. This was definitely Bigfoot. The creature squatted down several times, seemingly watching the train. It squatted down about 3 times, Rusty said. It appeared to be watching the train. They watched the figure for about 8 minutes, trying to make sense of what they were seeing. John, a dentist with a keen eye for detail, estimated the distance. "I play golf, so I know how to measure distance. It was about 25 yards from our car," he said. Intrigued by their story, Peter C. Byrne, the director of the Bigfoot Research Project, accompanied the Espositos to the spot they described, located off France Taylor Road near the Pinewood Mobile Manor. The group hiked down a hill, crossed the railroad tracks, and made their way to the area. Byrne noted that the Esposito's account was consistent with other credible sightings his team had investigated. They made sketches of what they saw, Byrne explained. They drew a creature with no neck. That matches other descriptions we've heard. Byrne's fascination with mysterious creatures began in the 1950s while searching for the abominable snowman in the Himalayas. He founded the Bigfoot Research Project in August 1992, funded by a grant from the Boston-based Academy of Applied Science. The team investigates about 50 reported Bigfoot sightings each year. The Espositos' sighting was one of 6 that were deemed credible in 1993. "We see very few cases of fakery," Byrne noted. "Most of the people misinterpret what they see. Our experience helps us filter out the phonies." For instance, Byrne recalled a case where a man reported finding a Bigfoot footprint. However, upon investigation, it was revealed to be nothing more than a skid mark made by a large dog. The idea of a Bigfoot living near the Dalles isn't far-fetched, according to Byrne. He described such a creature as shy, nomadic, and nocturnal. "If you want to speculate that Bigfoot travels near water and crosses the river at the most narrow point, this area makes sense," he said. Byrne also mentioned past sightings in the area. In 1971, 5 people from the Dalles reported seeing Bigfoot on 3 separate occasions above the Pinewood area. "We found the witnesses to be very credible," he said. Byrne dismisses skeptics who argue that Bigfoot is nothing more than a myth. "This isn't just some man in a suit who has been dressing up to fool people," he stated. "If so, he's been doing it for 200 years. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, Byrne is optimistic about future discoveries. He believes that modern technology will be key in finally understanding Bigfoot's existence and behavior. "The answer isn't going to be found by walking through the woods," Byrne said. "The answer will come from technology that will help us analyze their patterns of behavior." Even if science has yet to capture a living Bigfoot, John and Rusty Esposito are already convinced. "I believe people who lie about this spoil it for those who are truly looking for it," Rusty said. "I've never seen anything like this before. This wasn't a bear. This was definitely Bigfoot." A noted that it moved upright on 2 legs. John Davis, 60, the 5th member of the crew from Clovis, demeanor to kill one of the creatures. A Bigfoot hunter with a nighttime sniper scope was arrested outside.
Bulletin Staff Writer, March 26, 1987. By Kim Opatka, Derry Township. Bigfoot is back, or so claims a local man who says he encountered a Bigfoot-like creature twice recently near the village of Gray Station. The first encounter occurred on December 13th, when, walking along the railroad tracks, a large object, possibly a railroad tie, was thrown at him. Looking up, he saw a creature that stood 8 or 9 feet tall, with wide shoulders, long arms, and a head covered in long hair. The man, who wishes to remain anonymous, described a standoff with the creature before it turned and disappeared into the woods. "It had wide shoulders and was bigger than anything I've ever seen," he said. "I've never seen anything like it." The man has heard other reports of sightings around the area, including in Brenizer, where locals have reported strange noises and animal behavior. Stan Gordon, from the Pennsylvania Association for the Study of the Unexplained, suggests these reactions might indicate a creature's presence. There have been no other confirmed sightings, but strange noises have been reported in the night, and some residents have had pets go missing under mysterious circumstances. Books on Bigfoot note that the creature often displays a particular dislike for dogs, which may explain some of the disappearances. While some, like Dr. Cynthia Walter, a biology professor at St. Vincent College, are skeptical of Bigfoot's existence, others, like Jack Sickenberger of the Pennsylvania Game Commission, keep an open mind. "Anything's possible," Sickenberger said, "but until there's proof, I'm skeptical." Gordon and his team plan to investigate further, noting that Bigfoot sightings often occur near mobile homes, microwave towers, and railroad tracks, which some believe attract the creature due to electromagnetic energy. Despite the skepticism, the man who saw Bigfoot remains firm in his belief. "Let others experience it, and then let them be the judge," he concludes. This video is created for entertainment purposes only and is based on the accounts and stories shared by witnesses from old news clippings. It is not intended to prove or disprove the existence of Bigfoot. That decision is up to you. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel and share your thoughts in the comments below. We value your input and look forward to hearing your perspective.